Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Wolfpack Plays. Ow, ow! Today we are playing mini games. And as you see today, we are not playing a video game. We are playing a different type of game. And I'm here with Mr. Gavin Bonar, the lead singer of Friday Giants.
We sing, we dance, we make people dance with us. People come up on stage with us. If you haven't been to a concert and you're in the Cincinnati area, check us out. That's really about it. Pick up our EP Life on Repeat on iTunes and Spotify.
Today we are playing a game called Not to be Confused with.
Not to be confused with the game of Monopoly.
Which would not to be confused with the game of life.
And those are the rules.
And those are the rules. Basically, one person starts off with a topic, the next person has to have another thing that's kind of related to that, and say, not to be confused with. So, for example, if I said Barack Obama, Gavin would have to say,
not to be confused with George Bush.
In which I would return, not to be confused with my friend George's Bush.
Not to be confused with Curious George.
There you go, and you just go until one of us laughs, and the first person to laugh has to spin the punishment wheel. Either way, let's go ahead and we'll get started. So, I'll start us off with book.
Not to be confused with a Mac.
Not to be confused with an article.
Not to be confused with a newspaper.
Not to be confused with a pair of pants.
Not to be confused with a pair of overalls.
Not to be confused with your little brother.
Not to be confused with your mother.
Not to be confused with your family pediatrician.
He laughed.
I laugh!
Balls. Family pediatrician?
I don't know! I blanked! I gotta spin the wheel.
Taking my shoes off.
I've got...
upside down.
Take a shot! Ah, okay. Okay, so we're back, and Gavin apparently doesn't think that the alcohol we have in the house is good enough, so we're going with pickle juice.
Just how big that jar of pickles is.
This is like baby
this makes
sized.
It funnier.
This is baby sized.
I'll say a prayer for you.
Once more into the breach. Oh, man, bro. Ugh.
Vinegar?
Vinegar. I like vinegar, but that's... Ugh. Ugh. Ugh.
You've done well.
Round 2. Okay, so hopefully I come out on top this time. That was gross. Jeez, I guess take a shot means take a shot of anything we have in the fridge.
There are children at home.
True. Alright, cool. So, you start this time. You won.
Oh! Gotta come up with an item.
Yep.
Yogurt.
Not to be confused with Spam.
Not to be confused with actual meat.
Not to be confused with a hot dog.
Not to be confused with Boca Burgers.
Not to be confused with the hot dog in your pants.
Not to be confused with Magnums.
You suck! How do you keep from laughing?
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Okay, cool. So I gotta do my second punishment now. Balls, dude. Why are you so good at this?
And
it is... Taste the flavor!
Taste the flavor.
Balls. Okay, so tasting the flavor means that Gavin gets to go into our spice cabinet, look through any and all spices that he can find, mix any concoction that he wants onto a spoon, and I have to eat it.
This is what it looks like.
Dude, that is so much. I thought you were going to put in, like...
You said the big
I
spoon,
did.
so
I
I'm like,
did
what
say
am
the
I
big
supposed
spoon.
to do?
This is a shit ton. This is so much.
It's okay.
This is so much.
You'll be surprised.
It smells like pumpkin pie.
You'll be surprised.
Down the hatch. 3, 2, 1.
Oh.
Cinnamon.
Yep.
You motherfucker.
What else is in there?
Nutmeg.
Yes? What else is in there?
Yogurt.
No. I wouldn't put yogurt in there. What else is... Oh, that's gross.
Okay, so that was literally awful. Time for the next round. Gavin gets to start again.
Woo! Oh, wait.
Balls.
I need the phone for that.
Go ahead.
Cat.
Not to be confused with dog.
Not to be confused with your mother.
Not to be confused with your brother.
Didn't we do this round earlier?
Shh, just keep going. You laughed!
Dang it! Alright, you got me. Dang it!
Alright, from now on, no repeats. If you repeat, then you lose 2. If you repeat, you lose 2.
But I laughed.
But you laughed.
Alas.
You giggled. Okay, cool. So Gavin's gonna go ahead and spin the wheel for his punishment. I swear, if you hit reverse, I will have...
There's no way.
I will lose my mind.
Snowball!
Okay, cool. So we're outside, and it just snowed. Pretty good. So Gavin's about to get his punishment. Okay, take it off.
Chester back.
Back.
Ah. No, this is going right away.
Okay, so that was fun, wasn't it, Gavin?
As if you needed further proof, my glasses are fogged up from the coldness.
Hey, Callie. Hey, Callie. She's such a little foofer. She's a little foofer. All right, so this time I guess I get to go first.
Dang.
Yep. And candle.
Is to candle box.
Try again.
Try again.
Different words.
Oh, different words. My bad.
Not to be confused with.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Candle.
Not to be confused with sharks.
Not to be confused with a toothpick.
Not to be confused with an actual meal.
Not to be confused with poop.
Not to be confused with a wallet.
Not to be confused with diarrhea.
Not to be confused with a cell phone.
Which is not to be confused with a boner.
Not to be confused with my last name. For the record, that round made no sense at all.
No, it didn't. All right, so I gotta spin the wheel for my punishment. Here we go. Reverse, 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 reverse. Oh!
I think he's excited.
Reverse! You're up, buddy.
Oh, there's another stupid ad. Okay.
You're good.
Would you be mad if it reversed here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, no!
Yes, it reversed again! Oh, yes.
Boss! Boss!
Oh, beautiful. This is beautiful. What if it reverses again?
It won't. It won't. This is a joke now. This is a joke. It just reversed 3 times in a row. I swear if this does it again.
No.
Upside down.
Upside down.
Okay, so Gavin has to do this entire next round with his head down here and his feet up here. Okay, cool. So, I guess Gavin won that round, so you get to start.
An item, right?
Yep, any noun.
Football.
Which is not to be confused with a baseball.
Which is not to be confused with the Bengals.
Which is not to be confused with a softball.
Which is not to be confused with your wife.
Which is not to be confused with Vontez Burfict.
Which is not to be confused with the Blue Jays.
Which is not to be confused with Toronto.
Which is not to be confused with the Canadians.
Which is not to be confused with a maple leaf.
Which is not to be confused with the blade of grass.
Which is not to be confused with Acadia National Park.
Huh. Which is not to be confused with marijuana.
Which is not to be confused with legal.
Dang it! Why?
Yes!
Why did I laugh at that? That was stupid.
Okay, so Gavin's got to spin the wheel for his punishment now, and let's cross our fingers we don't have any more of that damn reverse button. I swear! there! Okay, so I got reversed. Mother freaking pearl.
That's my semi-victory dance.
Upside down.
Have fun.
Ah!
Who starts this one?
I won. I
Okay.
have to start.
That's definitely correct. Mr. Brown.
Table leg.
It's the chair. Well, not to be confused with the chair, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Which is not to be confused with a bookcase.
Which is not to be confused with the computer.
Which is not to be confused with a book.
Which is not to be confused with a Kindle.
Which is not to be confused with real reading.
Which is not to be confused with a comic book.
Which is not to be confused with actual literature.
Which is not to be confused with J.K. Rowling.
Which is not to be confused with bad authors.
Which is not to be confused with Tom Green.
Which is...
Yes! Tom Green over J.K. Rowling.
Okay, so I lost again. I gotta spin the wheel. Taste the flavor. I swear, dude, please don't pack it with cinnamon this time.
Okay.
I about threw up.
No
You ever
cinnamon.
heard of the cinnamon challenge?
No.
Let me tell you what this looks like. This looks like bark. It looks like sand. It looks like rock salt. And I can smell the chili powder. That smells like ass. That smells like farts, dude. This smells like farts. It smells like a fart, dude. You literally just did what people get paid like $70,000 a year to do, which is create flavors in a lab. You just made fart smell with shit from my spice cabinet. Maybe Italian seasoning. We'll see.
All right.
Smells like ass. Tastes like chicken.
The chicken. There's the chicken rub on there.
Oh! Okay, cool. This will be our last round. Let's go ahead and we'll see. I thought we had a thing going. Alrighty, you won.
All right.
Go ahead.
That's another category.
Go ahead and get started.
The Nintendo GameCube.
Not to be confused with Nintendo.
Not to be confused with Sony.
Which is not to be confused with Microsoft.
Which is not to be confused with Trident.
Which is not to be confused with Apple.
Which is not to be confused with oranges.
Which is not to be confused with the Christmas tree.
Which is not to be confused with the Medora.
Which is not to be confused with Krampus.
Which is not to be confused with Pepto-Bismol.
Which is not to be confused with Adderall.
Which is not to be confused with Children's Tylenol.
Which is not to be confused with cough syrup.
Which is not to be confused with the band Young the Giant.
Which is not to be confused with omeprazole.
What's that?
Your turn.
Which is not to be confused with my turn.
Which is not to be confused with a webcam.
Which is not to be confused with my sense of direction.
Which is not to be confused with I love lamp.
Which is not to be confused with the camera that you bought for your wife.
Which is not to be confused with it works 85% of the time, all the time.
Which is not to be confused with my watch.
Which is not to be confused with a full moon.
Which is not to be confused
kidding.
with a clean pair of underwear.
Which is not to be confused with undies.
Which is not to be confused with a pair of socks.
Which is not to be confused with a thong.
Which is not to be confused with a sexy bra.
Which is not to be confused with a busty cougar in your living room.
Which is not to be confused with the dream I had last night.
Which is not to be confused with a lover from Latino land.
Which is not to be confused with HBO After Hour specials.
Which is not to be confused with Redbox.
Which is not to be confused with Hulu Plus.
Which is not to be confused with Netflix.
Which is not to be confused with Yahoo Screen.
Which is not to be confused with Amazon Fire.
Which is not to be confused with the toilet paper.
Which is not to be confused with the stains in my pants.
Which is not to be confused with your transgender bunny.
This is Winchester. We got him last year. They told us he was a boy. And then he didn't hump things and started having periods.
Transgender bunny.
Okay, so that was the last round. Gavin literally can pick anything under the sun for me to go and do, and I have to do it as my punishment.
I've never had this much power before in my life.
Even when you were president of your fraternity in college?
Oh, this is much better.
What was the first thing that popped into your head?
The first thing that popped in my head
Yeah.
is you rolling around in the snow outside shirtless. As a sign of my victory, I'm wearing Sean's hat. It's 14 degrees outside, and this is his punishment. Are you ready?
Go.
Go. Well, quit stalling. Okay. Hurry, Sean.
All right, that's all the time we have for this episode. If you like this video, go hit the like button and share it with your friends. Whew, man. If you want to join our wolf pack, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. All you got to do is hit subscribe and you're in. And get all kinds of exclusive cool stuff. And we'll see all you guys in the next episode of Wolfpack Plays.